In 48 hours, Wuhan's 2-month lockdown will finally be lifted. The city of 11 million people was ground zero for the coronavirus outbreak. Aussie teacher Shay Carney lives there. She spoke to Alison Petrowski.
We didn't really have time to process it. We just went straight onto lockdown. The streets were empty. We were stuck in our apartment. We couldn't go anywhere, and it felt like the apocalypse in a way. Like, it was very scary. My name is Shay Carney. I'm from New South Wales in Australia. I moved to China 2 years ago to teach English. I live with my boyfriend at the moment, and it's been a long time. It was meant to be 1 year, but it quickly rolled into 2 because I love my job.
In those initial days of people getting sick in Wuhan, what were you being told about the virus?
It's just like the flu. It's not that bad. But like, that was before they even knew anything. Like, that's as we were just learning about the disease. I don't have words to fully describe it. In the beginning, it was crazy. It was honestly insane. And then to watch it as it did start to spread, there were people infected in the apartment block next to ours. And a teacher from my old school that I first started in China, one of their relatives got it.
Could you go out at all? Could you go out and get groceries and essentials and things like that?
No, definitely not. Everything just shut down immediately and everyone had to stay in their apartments. The only people were out were public officials and like security who were enforcing it. Then they also had delivery drivers were still considered essential because everyone had to order online apps basically, unless you had you could get special permission to go out to buy groceries, but even eventually like grocery stores just closed and it became all online apps. So I live in an apartment block, and China like lives in communities where they have shared outdoor areas, and so we basically got locked in the community. They just blocked all the exits except for one.
A second plane load of Australians evacuated from Wuhan this weekend will be quarantined at a vacant mining camp near Darwin.
We saw those chartered flights being organised from Wuhan back to Australia. Why didn't you try and get on one of those flights?
We're on quarantine. Like, it's quarantine for a reason. Like, it's not good. It doesn't make sense to be trying to get home. One, also, we live very far from the airport, so getting there could have probably been impossible, because I know there's been so many people who tried to get on flights, and then because of like the situation with all the roads being blocked, they couldn't get to the airport itself. And then there was also the risk of getting infected on the way to the airport, because you don't know who's got it. A lot of people aren't showing symptoms when they're carrying it, and the long incubation period, so I just didn't think it was worth the risk.
The World Health Organization commended the move, and while many criticised it as draconian and inhumane, the dramatic shutdown became the benchmark in the fight to contain COVID-19. And China says it's worked. For more than a week, Wuhan has had no new infections recorded. They've begun the early stages of lifting the lockdown, with shopping centres reopened and residents allowed to leave their house for fresh air.
We're hearing that you're slowly coming out of lockdown. What does that actually look like at the moment?
We're allowed to go out, but everyone has a health code still. You're only allowed out for 2 hours at a time, and like shops are open, but it's still pretty strict. There's so many checks in place already. They're very intense. So I feel like if something was to come up, they would be able to isolate it quickly.
This Wednesday, the lockdown will be wound back even further. Trains will be able to run, flights will resume from the airport, and cars can once again take to the roads of the city. Wuhan residents will need to prove they're in good health and live in an epidemic-free compound.
I think it's still confusing for everyone, because like this hasn't really been done before, like, and how to get everything going again. Like, there's a lot of rumours that go around, and it's still hard to pick out what's actually going on. Even from April 8th, we're still going to be careful, but definitely want to go to a park. Get outside, get some sun. I'm pretty pale right now.
We're seeing some cases where young Australians feel like they're not going to be affected by the disease. You're 24. What advice have you got for them?
Honestly, it's kind of frustrating, because I even just spoke to my mum today, and she's like, people just aren't getting it. People are at the beaches, people are just going to Bunnings, like as a whole family. And it is frustrating to see. And I get, like, I was in that mindset where, like, you don't think it's gonna get bad. Like, you don't expect it to happen, but it did happen. Even if you're not getting infected, showing symptoms, you can still be infected and have those be able to pass it on to others. Like, it's not just about you. I think people are being pretty selfish in how they're acting. Like, they're not taking into account the fact that they could pass it on to someone and then pass it on to someone who can then be susceptible to getting it. Australia's just in this mindset that's like weeks behind everyone. And I don't know, it's time to catch up. Honestly, I feel safer here.